Welcome all my dear students in the second section of the Indian Weaver, which has been written by Sarojini Naidu, also known as Nightingale of India. It is the appreciation poem. Appreciation of the poem simply means to evaluate, to analyze the poem in order to understand in lucid and simplistic way. One has to get an entire knowledge about the poem because there are many glimmers, many aspects are there to the poem, and or in a nutshell I can tell you, appreciation of the poem simply means the attitude of the learners towards the poem after learning the poem. So this is exactly the simplest meaning of the appreciation of the poem. Appreciation of the poem consists of the 6 points about the poem, poet and title. In this section or in this point, student has to write some small information about the poem, poet and title. Now what is the summary, gist or central idea of the poem? It means a brief statement or account of the main point of the poem, and needless point should be skipped out of it. So that is the theme, summary, central idea of the poem. It came all under the one roof. Poetic style or devices. Poems are incorporated with rhyme scheme, rhyming words, figure of speech. It includes technique choices such as short or long poem. These are all the poetic style and devices. We'll go there also. Don't be worried about this. Now what is the central point or the central element? Central element contains all aspects of the poem. The short manner of the weather poem, there is a short manner including stanzas and tones and etc. Message of the poem in the sense, moral of the poem, what the poem known for example optimism, for example pessimism, solace, attitude, etc. etc. Thereafter, your opinion of the poem, your opinion of the poem, that different students are there and different attitudes are there. When student understand this poem very well, he has to write his own opinion. What does he think about the poem? He has to write with his own style. That is your opinion about the poem. Now I wrote something about the poem, poet and title. Let's see. The poem Indian Weavers is written by Sarojini Naidu, who was also known as the Nightingale of India. It is a short poem of the 3 stanzas containing 4 lines each. The poet has described 3 stages of life with the 3 phases of the day and contrast it with the 3 different colors. Sarojini Naidu, the poet, was born on 1879 and died on 1949. She has added many feathers in her personality when women were hardly respected after the earthen chulas. She was one of the first president of Indian National Congress as well governor of India. The poem entitled Indian Weaver emphasizes on an art of weavers, and this poem is dedicated to the poem. So what exactly poem, poet and title? Student has to write 2 lines of each content in this poem, poet and title. So thereafter, what is gist, theme, summary and central idea? So what did I think I wrote here? The poem Indian Weavers is ingeniously intertwined the 3 phases of the life with the 3 phases of the day by leaving impact of the specific colors. Each stanza of the poem is explicitly emphasizes on particular events of life and with the phases of the day. In another way, it articulates about the cycle of a human being, means childhood, youth and old age. Metaphorically, each time the rays wave in that time symbolizes a particular stage of the life. The poem comprises of the dialogue between the poet and the weavers. The poet asks the weavers, and in response to the question, the weavers make them reply. So this is exactly the summary of the poem. You see, we see the cinemas, and after having the cinema or after watching the cinema, we came to the friend, and our friend made him ask that, okay, what is the summary? What is the story of that poem or that cinema? So our student used to explain us in just 20 to 15 minutes. He just tell us the scenario of the poem in very short manner. So this is called exactly the summary central idea of the poem. So we explain in this segment. So poetic style or the devices. This is the technical terms of the poem. There are three stanzas of the four line. The poem is written in the question and answer form. We saw the first two lines of the poem are in the question form, and next to that they were in the answer form. So the poem is written in the question and answer form. The poet has the rhyme scheme AA BB. The widely used poetic device is symbolism. The poet uses different poetic devices such as symbolism and imaginary to bring out the central idea that human being pass through the different stages of the life that are characterized by sorrow and elation. After having this, there are some different figure of speech. We'll go line by line. Let's see. Figure of speech and its explanation. Weavers weaving at the break of the day. There is alliteration. Alliteration, the sound of the letter W is repeated. What does it mean? When the consonant sound follows one another. Okay, when the particular sound or the word are repeated in the same line, that time alliteration takes place. So happens here. That's why we made here alliteration. The sound of letter W is repeated. Climax. The words are arranged in ascending order. That's called the ascend. This is the definition of the climax, because weavers weaving at the break of the day. So the words are arranged in a perfect way, in an ascending way. That's why the second figure of speech takes place here. That is the climax. Metaphor. The birth, childhood stage of a man is implicitly compared with the break of the day. Means metaphor and simile. There is a simile between metaphor and the simile, but when the two objects are compared directly with each other without having or without writing the word as or the like, that's a metaphor. So the birth and implicitly compared with the break of the day. Second is, why do you view a garment so gay? Once again, alliteration, because the sound of the letter W and G are repeated. G, garments of G, and gay of the G. So Y and W. See, both sounds and words are repeated in the same line. That's why alliteration. Interrogation, because the line ends with question mark. Obviously, no question about all. That is interrogation. Blue as the wings of the halcyon wild. The inversion, because the words are not arranged in the correct order. The correct order is the wings of the halcyon wild is blue. See, when we start the word, we always start the word with a subject, but the words are in disarranged manner. The words are not in a correct order. That's why inversion is there. Alliteration once again, because W word is repeated there. Okay, wings and wild. Now simile. The blue color of cloth is directly compared with the wings of the wild halcyon. Blue as the wings of the halcyon wild. There is a comparison, but the comparison made with as or with a word like. This is not a direct comparison, this is an indirect comparison, and it is shown with the word as. That's why it's a simile. We view the robes of the newborn child. Once again, alliteration, because the sound of the word W or the alphabet W is repeated. Once again, weavers weaving at the fall of the night. Alliteration, once again, W word is repeated. It's happening again and again in the lines, the poetic line. Climax, the words are arranged in the ascending order. The same things happen here, which happen in the last stanza. Metaphor, once again, adulthood. Youth, the stage or the second stage of the man, is implicitly compared with the fall of the night. So once again, the direct comparison with the fall of the night. So why number 6, why do you wear a garment so bright? Once again, alliteration, the sound of W is repeated. Interrogation, second is interrogation in the same line, the same figure of second figure of speech. because once again there was a question form. The line we found here in the question form. There is at the end of the sentence there is a question mark. Obviously there is an interrogation. Like the plums of the peacock, purple and green. So obvious to understand, it's a simile because like word is there. There is a comparison that made between the plums of the peacock, purple and green. Like word is there. Obviously it's a simile. Anticlimax because the word purple and green are arranged in descending word order. It's not a climax because words are not arranging in ascending, it's a descending. उतरत्या याच्यामध्ये आपल्याला सांगितलेलं आहे त्याच्यामुळे इट्स ए anticlimax होत असतो. Alliteration once again, peacock, purple, plums, all three words are followed one by one to each other. That's why alliteration here. We view the marriage bells of the queen. Once again alliteration, W, W. These alphabets are repeated, sounds of the same words are repeated in the sentence. That's why it's happened there, alliteration. Ninth, weavers weaving solemn and still. Alliteration, the sound of the letter W and S are repeated again in the same line. See, weavers, W, weaving, W, solemn, yes, and still, yes. So obviously it takes place here, the alliteration. Climax once again, weavers, weaving, solemn and still. The words are grammatically arranged in the sentence, so it's a climax. It's arranged in ascending order, perfect way with patterning with the grammar. So climax. Paradox, now it's a new. The line is meaningless, absurd, as one cannot work of weaving being still. Paradox in the sense that two different concepts are put together or made together, which is exactly not possible in any sense. So weaving is a process, and the process cannot be taken place with solemn and still process because there will be some noise, there will be some movement. It cannot take place in a still and solemn or in a motionless manner. So that's why we call it the paradox. Anticlimax, the words solemn and still are arranging a descending order. Tautology is one new figure of speech for us. The words solemn and still are similar in meaning. Both when the two different words are there and two different words are explaining the same meaning or explaining the same meaning of the both words, in the sense the word solemn, in the sense gambhirya, still, or shantata, still meaning also explain the same meaning. So that's why only to increase the poetic beauty of the line, sometimes poets use this technique or use this figure of speech, tautology, in the poem. 10. What do you view in the moonlight chill? Interrogation, because the poetic line ends with a question for so simple to understand. Inversion, the words are not in correct order. The correct word order is what do you view in the chill moonlight. The words are not perfect as far as grammar term is concerned, so that's why it's a inversion. When the words are not arranged in a correct word order or that follow the grammatical terms to make that sentence or the poetic line, that time it makes of inversion. Alliteration, the sound of the letter W is repeated. What do you view? So W and W. Metaphor, death, old age, the third and the last sons of the man life is implicitly compared with the moonlight. So it's a direct comparison, and that direct comparison is not shown with the word as or the like. 11. White as a feather and a white as a cloud. Just before a moment we went with the same figure of speech. We were talked about the same figure of speech, that is simile, because here the comparison is made with the word as, white as a feather, the feather of the duck or some another bird. Repetition, once again the word white as are repeated, white as a feather, white as a cloud, white, these words are repeated in the same sentence. That's why it's happened here, repetition. 12. We view a dead man's funeral shroud. The sound, once again alliteration. Every now and then the poet is full of the figure of speech that is alliteration, because the sound of the W is repeated. It's happened again and again in the poem. 13. White as a feather, as a cloud. No need to tell. I think that is a simile. Funeral shroud is directly compared with a feather and a cloud. We view a dead man's funeral shroud. Means white as word as. Two times as is there is a comparison, but the comparison is shown with the word as and as. So this is all we talked about the figure of speech. Now we're coming to the central elements of the poem. The poem Indian Weaver is written by Sarojini Naidu, also known as Nightingale of India. It is written in a very effective and lucid manner, which make easy to understand. The poem talks about the weavers making three types of the garment. In 12 lines, the poet had provided the symbolic representation of man's journey from birth to death. Sarojini Naidu has carefully picked up the issue that weaving is one of the most important of the folk vocation in India, and weavers are important folk characters. In each stanza, a question is asked in the first two lines and it is answered in the remaining two lines. So this is the central element where we came and stopped in the poem. That is the central element of the poem. Now what is the moral of the poem? What is the message of the poem? Indian weavers are underprivileged in this modern era, but Sarojini Naidu tried her best to refurbish their contribution toward the society and in the life. She explored how laboriously weavers work and led us to celebrate different events with different colorful clothes. They have an idea that how to weave a different colorful clothes for the different events of the life. I think in this modern era, one should not listen the contribution of an artisan, and that is Indian weaver. So this is the message of the poem. This is the revival of the contribution of the weavers toward the society. One should not be brushed out from the mind, and that's it. That is the message of the poem. We are coming to the last point, or the last point of the poem. That is your opinion about the poem. I already clarified you that after the learner having the knowledge of the poem, what does he think, or what did he think about the poem? He need to explain in his own word, with his own thinking, with his own caliber, with his own thought. So let's see. I like the poem Indian Weaver especially for its symbols and imagery. The poet has fetched an attention of the society towards underprivileged weavers. They have been working to embellish your society with a different perspective. They wear the clothes for all events of life, whether in solace or in cheerful moment. The poem has kindled an Indian philosophy that both marriage and death are ultimate truth of the life. This is my opinion about the poem. Student has to write their opinion. Student have to write their opinion about the poem, and that is what an end of this appreciation poem. I think that you shall have an idea about how one should write the appreciation of the poet. Thank you very much, dear friends. Meet you in the next video. Thank you very much. See you. Bye bye. Take care.